Hello, I'm Keith Garner from Wesley Impact. We're looking around at the various aspects of Wesley Mission's work at different centres. I wonder what you think about when you see a homeless person. Thank you for your company today here on the programme. I'm at Edward Eagar Lodge in Sydney as part of a special series visiting various areas of our work to see firsthand how we're showing God's love to the people we seek to serve. Working with the homeless, the vulnerable and those in need have always been an important part of our ministry at Wesley Mission since we began in 1812. When people who are homeless come to us, for whatever reason, we do all we can to show God's love and provide the support in every way that we can that is relevant and meaningful. We opened our doors here at Wesley Edward Eagar Lodge in '79 after a period of time in Francis Street Lodge not too far away, seeking to meet the needs of Sydney's homeless. Here we provide temporary and crisis accommodation for men and women in individual rooms with laundry, bathroom facilities and also breakfast and dinner daily. In addition to meeting immediate needs, we seek to meet the intellectual, vocational and spiritual needs of people. I'll speak a little more about that with the manager of our work here, Vanessa Daniels, and then later in the programme have a brief word with the chaplain of our work, Tang. We'll be joined in the Wesley Impact studio with Craig Gower and the Wesley Impact Band singing Rock of Ages. And I'm going to continue that series looking at various characters in the Bible who play an important role in the Christian story. Today we turn to this wonderful woman, Dorcas. Here at Wesley Mission, we offer short-term crisis accommodation in Sydney at Edward Eagar Lodge, but also in Coffs Harbour in the Nambucca region in the north of our state. The lodge here in Sydney bears the name of one of the founders of Methodism in Australia and early pioneers of Wesley Mission, Edward Eagar. He came to Australia as a convict and upon release fought for the rights of the marginalised in the early Australian colony. Today we continue to support the marginalised, and this is Veronica's story.
My name is Veronica and I came to Sydney looking for work. I had a very safe place to start with, but due to the person travelling and their lives moving on, I found myself with a suitcase, the clothes I was standing up in, and homeless. The first day of being homeless, I just walked the street. I didn't know what to do. I never imagined this would ever happen to me. I spent the night staying awake, finding lighted areas to sit in. The day that I walked up the street, approaching Wesley Edward Eagar Lodge, I thought my life was finished. The fear rose up. It was so scary that everything became surreal. This couldn't be my life. I buzzed the door and the door opened and I was met by this total stranger. And she just looked at me and asked, "How are you?" And that was it. I broke. I just broke into pieces. Everything that I had hung on to, I just shattered. He handed me a box of tissues. And that was the start of someone just showing that they cared. That first night in my room, all I knew was that I had a door separating me from the rest of the world. And I was safe. And when I left the room that day, I felt as though all these shattered pieces of me, they were being held in safe hands so that I could start to rebuild myself. They gave me hope that I could be me again. Through all this journey, with Wesley Edward Eagar Lodge. My faith is what kept the glimmer of light alive. I have absolute strongest belief that if you trust in God, sometimes it's a long journey, but He will be there. In the end, He will be there.
If you would like to see more of the work of Wesley Mission, visit wesleymission.org.au. You can watch loads more videos, catch up on past episodes of Wesley Impact TV, find out about our diverse range of services, and get involved to help make a positive difference in your community. You can also connect with us on social media and stay up to date on the latest news and information from Wesley Mission. wesleymission.org.au.
If you want to find out more about Wesley Mission, do go onto our website. You'll find lots of information there. And if you want to write to me, I'm very pleased to hear from you at impacttv@wesleymission.org.au. Now here we are at Edward Eagar Lodge, and I'm very pleased to be joined by Vanessa Daniels, who heads up so much of the operation that happens here. How long have you worked for us?
I've been with Wesley for 5 years now.
And do you enjoy it?
I love it. I love the diversity, I love the action, I love the people that we get to meet. One day is never the same.
I like the word, the action.
Yes.
That's because it's unpredictable, is it?
Yeah, and it's 1 minute it could be really nice and calm, the next minute you're doing building relationships or conflict resolution, and then there's paperwork in the afternoon, so it's really quite nice.
And when you talk about people's coming into this place, many are coming in, aren't they? The word crisis is a fair description of how it feels for them.
Yeah, and I think it's a fair word to use. I think they come with different traumatic backgrounds. They come with lots of experiences that haven't worked, so disillusioned, discouraged, and I think they're grieving a lot when they walk through the door. So it's really quite nice to be able to have the opportunity to support them while they're going through that.
And so the Christian mission for us is really getting alongside people
Yeah.
in that situation.
Yeah, and really not imposing our way of thinking, but seeing what they want, where they want to go, and just supporting them in that journey.
And the reality is also we have men and women here. I always try to tell that part of the story because people often think about men's refuges, and we know the problems of homelessness is as much likely to happen to a woman as to a man.
Yeah, exactly.
And in some situations probably more so if you've got children and family and you're escaping domestic violence and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's nice to be able to have that diversity. It presents a few issues, but it's also nice to be able to have that safe environment for women and also the safe environment for the men.
How important is it to be in the city centre?
I think it's really important to be in the city centre. It creates a lot of opportunity for our residents to access public transport, to go and visit tenancies. Their employment services are usually local, but it also gives them an opportunity to do some social activities. So they have set tasks to do, I guess, but they also have an opportunity to balance that with some social and leisure time.
And many of them would never live in the city centre because this is humongous to pay for apartments in the areas that we're talking about. Now, we talk about this as being crisis accommodation. Tell me what your hope is for people who come into this centre.
It's a good question. I think my hope is to be able to hear what each person wants when they come in and to be able to provide that support. So whether that be they want to look at employment or they want to look at counselling or they just need a safe house, what they need is actually what we want to offer.
And eventually the hope is that these people will find independence of living. Yes. and find, look, that's great. Now, we talk about joined up thinking and practice at Wesley Mission, and I suppose that really is a little bit like the wraparound services. We try to do more, don't we? Yeah. For example, what sort of things are offered here?
So we have case management services that are offered, but we've also just started to work with a primary health care service. Mental health counsellors come in twice a week. We've got gambling and financial counsellors that come in on a weekly basis. We've got the legal service that comes in, and they're all local services. So really trying to get the community to support the community.
And important that many of those are available here rather than to have to face the confrontation of the going to see somebody.
Yeah, and I think some people have have the capacity to do that, but others don't have the capacity, especially the first-time homeless people. They don't know what to do. So we have opportunity for them to actually get the services in-house.
Vanessa, thank you to you and the staff here. We're just delighted to come out and see what the mission is doing in various settings. So I'm delighted that we've been able to visit here at Wesley's Edward Eagar Lodge. Now we're back to the studio and Craig Gower is going to, with the band, sing Rock of Ages.
Rock of Ages, cleft for me, let me hide myself in thee, let the water and the blood from thy wounded side which flow be for me the double cure, wash me clean and make me pure. Not the labor of my hands can fulfill thy Lord's commands. Could my zeal no respite know? Could my tears forever flow? All for sin could not atone. You must save and you alone. Rock of Ages, while I draw in fleeting breath, and my eyes shall close in death, when I soar to worlds unknown, see you on the judgment throne. Rock of Ages, cleft for me, let me hide myself in thee. Let me hide myself in thee. Let me hide myself in
Over the years of Wesley Impact, Keith Garner has had hundreds of conversations sharing stories of hope, resilience, love and the Christian faith. Perspectives on Faith and Entertainment is a collection of inspiring and insightful conversations with people who are leaders in their field, including former Queen of Pop, Deborah Byrne, pioneer songwriter Jeff Bullock, children's and country music entertainer Colin Buchanan, Golden Guitar winning duo Carter and Carter, seasoned performer and music mentor Daniel Kay, and renowned worship leader Darlene Check. Each conversation shares a unique perspective on entertainment and collectively presents a broad cross-section of performers and how their faith impacts their lives and others. Perspectives on Faith and Entertainment is the third instalment of a three-part series and is available now from Wesley Mission. To find out more, contact Wesley Mission on 02 9263 5555 or email impacttv@wesleymission.org.au.
I'm at Edward Eagar Lodge here in Sydney, today getting a first-hand look at the work we do with the homeless in this city. And I do hope you're enjoying this series as we travel around various Wesley Mission centres. I'm also continuing in a series looking at various characters in the Bible who are important to the Christian story. I filmed these in the Wesley Impact studio, and today I'm looking at the character of Dorcas. Now, the story of Dorcas is not widely known, and it's only described very briefly. And many Christians and readers of the New Testament would be hesitant, really, in recalling the story if they were asked to. So let me read to you the biblical passage in which she's mentioned. We remind ourselves that Peter was at this point in time travelling around. Remember, he's the head of the first Christian mission and church, and he's travelling around the country, and he went to visit many people. But the main feature is that people were turning to God through his ministry. And this is what we read in Acts 9, 36 through to 43. In Joppa, there was a disciple named Tabitha. In Greek, her name is Dorcas. She was always doing good and helping the poor. About that time, she became sick and died, and her body was washed and placed in an upstairs room. Lydda was near Joppa, so when the disciples heard that Peter was in Lydda, they sent 2 men to him and urged him, "Please come at once." Peter went with them, and when he arrived, he was taken upstairs to the room. All the widows stood around him, crying and showing him the robes and other clothing that Dorcas had made while she was still with them. And we read this marvellous story that continues to say, Peter sent them all out of the room. Then he got down on his knees and prayed. Turning towards the dead woman, he said, "Tabitha, get up." She opened her eyes, and seeing Peter, she sat up. He took her by the hand and helped her to her feet. Then he called for the believers, especially the widows, and presented her to them alive. This became known all over Joppa, and many people believed in the Lord. Now, that is an amazing story from the Acts of the Apostles. How Dorcas was restored to life. Remember that this is Luke that writes this particular document. It's the second part of a 2-part document, Luke and then the Acts. And Luke was a doctor. That's important to keep in mind when you read a story of that kind. An interesting parallel can be made with the healing of Jairus' daughter in Mark chapter 5. It's quite clear that the way it happens is so very similar. The name even of the girl, because where Jesus raises the daughter to life in Mark chapter 5, verse 41, he took her by the hand and said, "Talitha cum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, get up." Immediately the girl stood up, and you said to yourself, that's very similar. Perhaps the memory of Jesus having done this inspired Peter. Because remember, Peter was part of a small group taken by Jesus into the intimacy of that situation. And so it's not surprising if it's very, very similar. So whatever the reason might be, Dorcas is restored to life, a life of great usefulness. You see, this is a very practical woman. Remember, what happens in this story is that the widows and the women around have all the pieces of garment that this woman has made. She's a very practical Christian. A positive reflection on this account is that the life of Dorcas is restored to a life of purpose, and it's one that flows through the whole area. Everybody's talking about this. Well, why would they not? If it happened in your town, your village, your region, never mind one of our cities, everybody would soon hear about it. And the same life that flowed through Peter to her is the life of God through the Holy Spirit. So in a sense, it is very similar to the story in the Gospels. So what does it have to say to us? Well, obviously, first and last, it's a story about God's power. And Dorcas clearly demonstrates the very practical nature of care to those in need. There's something about this woman. In fact, the way that she's described is in terms of her practicality, because we're told that she is somebody who did good, who was reaching out to other people. She shared her goods and care towards the sick, the lame and the outcast, and others in ministry. And so There's a sense in which we can learn a great deal from this woman. And when God restores us, he always restores us to a purpose. So when God restores this woman to life, she'll be forever the Dorcas who is the practical woman, once again continuing in that practical way. And I love that aspect of this story. I love the name of Dorcas. I once knew somebody given the lovely name of Dorcas by a missionary lady. So it would mean something very powerful. R.A.O. White, the Bible scholar, concludes a note on Dorcas in this particular way. She takes honoured place among the people in whom the Spirit of Christ was reproducing the mind of Christ and overflowing with the love of Christ to all around them. That's exactly what Dorcas was doing. You see, what God was presenting to us in Christ was bringing healing to her in her moments of extreme need, after she's died, been raised to life. Of course, it's very different than the resurrection of Jesus. When Jesus was raised to life, he never died. He was forever alive, the Saviour of all. When she died, later, it would be just as any other person. Dorcas did not live forever. She had eternal life. But Dorcas is raised from death, an unthinkable mystery. But when she is, she continues the work that God had called her to do. A practical woman, a woman of great faith, a woman who knew what it was in her community to do the works of God. So at Wesley Mission, the name of Dorcas will always be revered because we believe in that kind of practicality, that practical edge to our Christian faith. We heard a little of it a few moments ago in terms of caring for children, in caring for families. The same could be said when we work alongside people with disabilities, or when we try to help people who feel somehow that they've been ostracised from the rest of the community and society. Where could you find a better example of somebody who believes in that than this woman who had such a marvellous effect? Another character of the New Testament, Dorcas, a story worth hearing.
If you would like to contact Keith and find out more about today's program, write to us at Wesley Mission, Post Office Box A5555, Sydney South 1235, or you can send an email to impacttv@wesleymission.org.au. On our website, you can catch up on past episodes of Wesley Impact, find out more about our work, read online magazines and articles, and connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. You can also connect to Keith's blog and stay up to date on all of the latest news and information from Wesley Mission. wesleymission.org.au.
Here we are on the third floor in this Edward Eagar Lodge Centre here in Surry Hills in Sydney. Look, I'm delighted to be here to be able to, in this setting, talk to the chaplain here at Edward Eagar Lodge, Michael Tang. Welcome, Michael. Tell me a bit, we know about chaplains in hospitals and various, what does a chaplain in this space of homelessness do?
Sure, so a chaplain here listens to the people here, talks to them, I'll talk to them and encourage them just in their life and also in Jesus, and invite them to join us when we have activities, Bible studies, church services, and make them feel welcome about coming and joining us.
And that's definitely an aspect of the work here, the Christian emphasis, isn't it, that we put on our work?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's I think, a vital component of what I do here.
Now, whenever I come here, I find people are at different stages, if you like, of their experience, from all kinds of hard things that might happen to them. Do you think there is a spiritual awareness comes for some people when they find themselves in this situation?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people are searching for God. They have many questions about faith. Some people come here and they already have a faith, but they're struggling. And so it's good for them to come here and we can encourage them in that faith and answer any questions that they're searching for.
And it's hard for some people, isn't it? You know, it's easy when I go around to say, tell us the success stories, but it's hard sometimes because it can be a story of failure as well.
Yeah, I think life for the people here is full of ups and downs, you know, highs and lows. And they can do that with God or without God. And I think they want to do that with God in the highs and lows.
Have you got some kind of people for whom it's very special for you because they've managed to turn their life around with Christ?
Definitely. I definitely have met people here who have turned their life around. In a sense, not their circumstances stay the same, but their perspective becomes different. and they grow and they want to learn so much more about Jesus. It's encouraging when that.
Now, what we try to do in our homeless work is move people along to different stages. So it's obviously emergency assistance here, but the hope is eventually that people will get into independent living in their own accommodation.
Yeah, that is definitely the biggest hope, to prepare people for the next stage and try and get them some more permanent accommodation than what is here.
And you know, this is political, but we don't have enough, do we? You know, there's not enough accommodation available for people.
Definitely. There's not enough accommodation available for people anywhere. And I think Sydney is in a crisis in itself. I mean, housing, accommodation is so becoming vastly unaffordable, and it's even more unaffordable for the people in this circle.
Thank you, Michael, and also thank you to Vanessa earlier in the show. Look, it's been a delight to be here at Wesley Mission's Edward Eagar Lodge. Please go onto the website and find out more about us, and I hope you'll join us at the same time next week here on Wesley Impact.
Wesley Mission helps more than 2,400 people each year through Wesley Homeless Services. To find out more, visit wesleymission.org.au.